Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards, because we are the best, and we're not wizards, no matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
Welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for November. Jingle, 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 jingle. It's almost here. It's almost here. I was going to do something atmospheric. I was going to say, there's a man. He's riding into town. Instead of guns in his holsters, he's bringing himself some ink and he's bringing himself some paint. And whenever he goes, there's always going to be art. He's a man with no name. Well, maybe he's got one name. He's possibly got two names. They're confusing names anyway. But he's not just here for justice. He's here for revenge. Because from Roland's Revenge, I've got Roland MacDonald. Hello, sir.
Hello. What an intro.
I think it was...
so much hard work's gone into that.
It was completely made up on the spot. None of it was scripted or written. So there you go. First of all, I guess we should say thanks very much for coming on the show. And you're probably regretting doing this within you realise what you've got yourself into.
It's a pleasure for now. Give me 10 minutes.
Give you 10 minutes, and then we can stop and we can do I'll send you over an email with one of those customer service feedback sheets that they kind of do. Do you feel you've been very satisfied with your podcast experience, or very unsatisfied, please? And do you want to include any comments?
On a scale of 1 to 5.
The scale of 1 to 5. For those who have maybe been looking at games such as Western Legends recently, which was a huge hit for Colossal Games. It was one of their first Kickstarters.
Yeah, it was the first one.
There was a certain gentleman who was involved in the art for that, and that gentleman is the person that's on the other end of the kind of the podcast line at the moment. There's also been quite recently, you could say he's been kind, but he's also been a bit ruthless. Because there's a game called Ruthless, which is being published and released in conjunction with Alley Cat Games, which Roland was also responsible for kind of the art as well. So he's been kind of getting himself about. So we decided to get together and have a chat, and if we chat, then you're just going to have to listen, and we'll see how it goes. But because it's very rarely that we actually speak to people in the field that are involved in the art side of things, we just speak to designers, we speak to developers, we speak to guys that are running their own Kickstarter programs and projects, and it seemed like a good idea to get somebody like Roland, who's covering a lot of these bases now, to come on and have a chat. So thank you very, very much for coming on. As I said,
that's a real pleasure. Yeah. Love the show myself, so I'm honoured to be a guest.
Thank you very, very much. I suppose you should say the reason that we're doing this is because we like what we're doing, and in this kind of world, if you find something that you like doing, just keep on doing it if it brings a smile to your face, as long as it's legal. Or depends, it's up to you.
That's some solid advice.
Your mileage may vary. Your mileage may vary. The second reason that we do this is it's our ongoing voyage to continue to bring you the best content that we can find. And that includes bringing lots of lovely people like Roland into the podcast so they can tell us stuff, which is always very, very good and very, very exciting. So, I usually start off by saying, do you want to tell us how you got into the hobby? But, for yourself, when do you remember the first time you kind of picked up a pencil, bit of chalk, stick with a bit of mud in it, and kind of started to get into the art side of things? Because have you been involved in the art longer than you've been involved in the board gaming side, or is it the other way around?
Oh no, I've been doing art, I guess, kind of like forever. So I was always busy with it as a kid, and I dropped off for a bit in my sort of 20s and got busy with other stuff. And then I had to train myself back up again because you get really rusty really fast, apparently. So, and then I went into computer games, and then I ended up in board games after quite a long period of time. So, yeah, board games is sort of the last, I don't know, 5 years, I guess, 6 years on and off. And before that was lots and lots of other stuff.
So did you start in the traditional kind of art thing where you're like a pencil, paper type of guy, and then moved into kind of like the digital side of things?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like it's kind of complicated because like when I started, obviously as a kid I did art and everything at school the traditional way, and then I went to art school, and the first part of that I was doing painting and oil painting and all that stuff. But then you go to proper art school, so I went to St Martin's in Soho, and there they like actively discourage you to draw and to paint. So I was on an art course and being actively told like painting's not the way to go, and that so I spent like 3 years basically studying philosophy in a way, and came out of that very confused, and then
I
stopped drawing after that.
Well, no wonder.
That kind of put me off art for a long time.
I could just imagine that. It's like, if you don't draw at all, is the art still there? It's like, of course it's not there. You've left a blank sheet, you feel. Come on.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a really weird space, the sort of art school, contemporary arts place. Like, it's a totally separate thing to what most people think art is. Art's become something totally different these days. So, anyway, that was a sort of awakening.
Is it the difference between kind of sitting there and kind of thinking about, well, this is juxtapositioning man's struggle against himself, and everyone's saying, look, you've left your shoes untied in the middle of the kitchen floor. He goes, no, that's art. And the difference between somebody saying, look, mate, it's my dad's 60th birthday. You wouldn't happen to draw him driving his taxi or something like that, is it? Because you get two sides. Yeah, to me, there's the practical.
For me, they're two totally different things. I mean, we call them the same name, which makes it really confusing. So then people are like, "Oh, that's not art." But what is art? With just two totally different things that got sort of muddled together across the 20th century. But actually, art pre-1930 and art after 1930 are kind of totally different things. So it's not worth talking about them in the same name. Really, it just gets all too confusing.
And is that the type of thing is that what you studied in at college? You sat around going, "Is this art?" And it's like, well, it's 1929.
No, I kind of started. Yeah, I struggled a lot while I was there because I didn't struggle a lot. I actually did very well there, but it was very much not the course I thought it was going to be. It was very much a sort of intellectual criticism course, and it took me a long time after that to realise what I'd got out of that course, because I'd gone there obviously to learn to be an artist in sort of more traditional sense in my own mind. But when I came out, what I'd ended up being was very, very good at critical thinking, I guess. I think actually, in a way, in life, that's been a much more useful skill. So it took me a long time not to be pissed off about it. But when I finally realised that I'd got something quite good out of it, then I've kind of come to appreciate it in my greying years. Yeah.
Great. Did you get like long hair and some kind of goatee going on while you were studying?
Of course, yeah.
Did you ever just have a moustache?
Christ, no. I don't think there's ever any excuse for a moustache, is there? Unless you're in a porn film or a remake of some sort of 70s crime show. I don't think a moustache is ever really acceptable.
I'll see your point, and I'll argue Burt Reynolds and Tom Selleck. So.
True. There is a man or two that can carry it off, but they kind of have to be a legend.
You have to. You wouldn't get kind of like, oh, that suits you. I run the local chip shop. No, that's got kind of.
You wouldn't be getting a lot of customers, would you?
I don't know what would happen in that situation.
With a moustache.
Unless, of course, you ended up having your moustache in your logo, and then you'd have to have a moustache all the time, whether you like it or not. That would be a particularly dangerous, if
Stuck
not
with it,
horrific situation to be in. Anyway, back to we digress. So, did you keep the practical stuff up when you were at college, or did you say that kind of completely go to the wayside, and was it a little while before you kind of picked it back up again?
I think after the first year of St Martin's, it pretty much died off, and I wasn't really even drawing anymore.
All right.
After that point, so, and then I probably didn't draw for, I don't know, like 4 years at all, 5 years in that period. And I trained myself to be a cook at that time, and going up and working in a restaurant, and then realised that was an insane way of life that no one should ever do, because it's absurd hours for no money, and and then I went and retrained actually to be a 3D artist for computer games. So
did you go back to education for that then?
Yeah, I went back and did a master's.
Wow.
Liverpool was the capital of culture at the time, and I got a subsidy to go and study there. So I spent a year in Liverpool doing games art, which was interesting, and got me a job at Creative Assembly in the end. We do the Total War series.
Oh, yeah.
The PC games, pretty big opportunity that was. So,
because they became really big at the time. Because they kind of, from all of a sudden, they came from nowhere, and they were getting used in kind of battle reenactments and stuff like that. And they says, this is how
got picked up on
they had
TV
a big series about
on
TV about this is how the Roman army would have done this, and this is the tactics they would have used and stuff.
They
like
used
that.
the game engine as a simulator for showing how battles might have played out. And then when I was there, so I was there for 5 years or so, I think, and the graphics and everything, and the technology was escalating super fast while I was there. So it was an interesting time. But 3D modelling is like factory work, or I found it like that. So, so I wanted to get back to something more creative. So I started training myself to draw again.
Was it less creative and just more assembly then? Was that pretty much what it was?
Well, I realised I wasn't in the creative part of the company.
Yeah, okay.
So I decided I wanted to change that up and do a bit less of the assembly, like you say. So, and took 2 years to do that, working every lunchtime, every evening on the train journey there and back, just drawing like crazy, learning Photoshop to a better level. And eventually I was able to be the concept artist for Shogun 2 Total War. So,
all right, okay.
That was a really, really big career-changing step for me. So, yeah.
Did you put together the portfolio and then rock up to the management and say, hey, management, look, this is the kind of stuff I can do, or did you just apply for it?
It was a fairly small company when I started. I think there were 60 people there. I think it's well over 250 now.
Wow.
But, so, like, I knew the art director quite well. We used to work together in a car for quite a period of time. So he would look over my shoulder and knew what I was doing. He knew I was working really hard to get my skills up. So at some point, my style and the projects all just kind of synced up. And the Japanese theme just suited the ink work that I was doing at the time. And that all just sort of came together, and I got that opportunity, and it was great. So, yeah.
Was that a bit of a culture shock for you then, kind of all of a sudden being, after all these years, kind of being a little bit in the creative wilderness, to actually be I guess the the entire creative kind of side of it? Was that kind of a bit, what do I do now? Or did you end up going, I'm in the wrong place?
I was really happy with it. I just ran with it. And I think the 2 years that I've been building up to it, just like I was ready to go. I was waiting for the project, it was like I either got that project or I left the company to go and do something else. I was like chomping at the bit to get on with something creative at that point, and it was just came at the right moment. So when it hit, I was like, okay, let's go. And started knocking out lots of stuff and was really enthusiastic about pushing on and taking on that role and sort of guiding the style for that project. It was great. So yeah, and I got a lot of freedom, but also a lot of learned tons during that process. So yeah.
And were you fully in the digital realm by that side? Was everything kind of design and drawing in Photoshop? Did you ever go back?
Yeah,
to
all my personal work was
stuff?
on paper. Everything I was drawing people on train platforms and on trains and all that stuff. And all that stuff was on paper. But one of the best things about having worked in the computer games industry is just the speed, demand, and quality. I mean, and you can't really get that doing handwork. You just can't get the speed to get the job done.
Yeah.
You can't make the changes fast enough. And so once you get used to using a tablet to the same degree that you can sketch by hand, then there's not really doesn't really make sense to be drawing pictures and scanning them in anymore.
No.
The level of detail you're losing, you're basically doing the job like 2 or 3 times over by the time you've got the final product out. So yeah, it took a long time to get to a point where I was able to use a tablet, same as a pencil. But once you get there, then not being 100% digital just didn't make sense to me anymore. And now literally everything I do is digital. I very occasionally sketch. Maybe at the high end of a concept stage for a board game, I'll rough stuff out on paper, but it's pretty rough drawing. And all the work is digital now.
Did you find you were falling into a particular kind of style then?
No, I mean, all over the place, and I still am in a way. I think it's tightened down a bit, but I was really happy just exploring everything. There's certain things that I like, obviously, more than other things. I'm not a manga person or anything like that. It doesn't interest me, but there's plenty of other genres and stuff that was really sparking my imagination. And I would just dip my toe in and obsess about that for a week or two and then just switch over to something else. And, so I managed to maintain that versatility. If you look at my portfolio, it's kind of everything from watercolor effects to very, very graphic stuff. And to be honest, I just get really bored. So I get bored really easily. So I can't. You see these people who just knock out the same style year after year after year, and I think, geez, I admire them, and the work gets better in a way because they're really refining something. But I think I'd just be bored. Can't imagine. And,
are you kind of like pushing yourself in a particular kind of just to make things kind of different then, to make sure that you're kind of like not bored to kind of surprise yourself with what you can do?
I think a little bit. Like I get excited when a project comes along and I can push it in a different direction. Like Western Legends is a good example in a way. They had an idea of what they wanted for that. But what I actually ended up doing was, it was quite a deviation from what we originally were looking at. So they originally wanted fairly loose paint style, but more sort of like oil paint or loose acrylic work. And just through the research, I started finding all those Mobius paintings from the Blueberry comics and all those amazing things like that. And it was just like, I think this style's going to fit better and it's going to be more dynamic. And like at the beginning, I wasn't sure how easy it would be to emulate that. And obviously, I'm not saying I got anywhere near Mobius stuff, but getting that energy going and getting that looseness, I think, is what really brings Western Legends to life in the end. Yeah. And so I'm pleased with how that went, but it was a nice opportunity to pursue a new direction as well, and I was excited about that.
How much, I mean, it sounded like you had a fair amount of freedom, but do you still get reined in by the designers and developers? During the process, are you given a brief and then you just disappear off, tablet in hand, packet of crisps, cheese sandwich and a juice, and then sketch away and then come back? Or did you have like regular meetings with, like, say, Travis and everybody like that within Colossal to kind of keep the direction kind of going a certain way? Or
I've started every client's a bit different, but I've started trying to move my clients into more of a collaborative space where we have a bit more back and forth than you would have in a traditional art relationship. So normally you would get the brief, and then you would come back with some sketches, and then you would come back with some better sketches and stuff like that. I tend to use things like Trello or Basecamp or something, and then I kind of like share work in progress and like do daily updates and just keep things flowing. And if I see something interesting on Pinterest or something, just like, hey, look at this. This is really exciting. Maybe I can start pushing stuff this way. Or so it allows for a bit more transparency, but maybe brings up more potential and opportunities in the design process. And I feel like it's a collaborative vision of what the game can be, rather than either them telling me exactly what they want and me trying to do it, which isn't the most interesting way to work, and also I don't think makes the best games at the end of the day. So like if we find a vision together, that's better, I think.
Does that make it easier then for like working on all your projects if you're making it kind of more collaborative? Is that you found it kind of, you've taken that kind of work ethic over into other projects that you've kind of worked on when you've been working with a client?
I try and use that for everything. I really like to keep things fluid, keep the dialogue going. I know a lot of artists are really terrible at communication. But for me, it's something that just makes the whole process more interesting and more enjoyable. I want to know what they're thinking, and I want to improve the project at every step, not just go away for 6 months, come back and have some pictures for them. Like, I'm not interested in just putting pictures on your project. I want to make the game better. I think art can really do that if it's done properly and it's done in collaboration. And if you just ask an artist to knock out some work for your game, you might get some amazing work, but you might have got something better if you'd actually work together. So I try and make that process work with everything I'm doing a bit.
So, I mean, while you were involved in that project, I mean, had you already been dipping your toe in board games in general? I mean, had you been involved in the hobby yourself for some time? I mean, are you one of these guys that likes to, get the cardboard out and have a shuffle about, or was it a case of, was this a No,
like I started messing around with. Well, I've got a slightly longer story, but I started messing around with cardboard a bit more seriously. I don't know, around 2011, I did my first game for Koali. Then I went cold on it for a bit, and then when I came back to it, I kind of came back to it with a vengeance, and went neck deep in board games, and was buying tons of them, and playing all of them, pulling them apart. Really interested, and over a couple of years, I just started thinking, okay, I'm going to specialize in this space. There's a lot of room for solo creativity here, and to be a part of a small team and make something a bit more personal. So I've been working in board games exclusively for the last 3 years now. So I think I've got, 15 board games under my belt or something by now. So and considerable number more on my game shelf. So
I mean, you've got people like, say, Beth Sobel, Kwanchai Moriara, who did Catacombs. Are you finding you're getting people kind of coming to you because of the stuff that you've done previously? Are you getting to the point where you kind of like say, well, I'm a kind of recognised name here, people will come to me and they'll look to commission to me? I mean, are you finding that you're having to turn people away now? Is there like a queue? I mean, am I a lucky person just being able to talk to you? Should I have been speaking to your secretary? I mean,
you're lucky talking to me because I've been half asleep since Essen. Aside from that. This year's kind of... last year I did a lot of decent projects, and the people who saw those got interested in my work, which is why I got the projects I got this year. This year kind of, I guess, has been the breakout year for me. And whilst I think my name's just starting to get known, like in the industry, amongst companies, I think my name's becoming quite well known amongst the, cardboard buying public. I think I'm still a nobody, but, I've knocked out, Western Legends, Tiny Epic Mechs, the deluxe version of Werewords.
Yes.
And the escape room games, special edition of Battle Line, and churned out a whole bunch of stuff over the last few years, and that started, and Stop Thief, of course, and that's all started to make an impression. And now there is a bit of a queue for work, and I'm having to tell clients, like, you need to actually let me know if you want me to work. Because I think a year ago, I was still getting, even less than a year ago, I was still getting calls, people going like, we need this, we need 150 cards, and we need a board, and we need the box, and we need it all to be done so we can use it for advertising as well, and we need it in a month. And you're like, yeah. And then I would just do it because because it was a big client that I really wanted. And now I've had the big clients that I really want, and there's still some like hot clients that I definitely want to work with in the coming year, but I've had enough good ones in the last year that people are coming to me, and I am backed up now until February and beyond, actually. So that's a nice position to be in. The exciting projects keep coming in as well. Like this year almost every project's been super cool, but on average, I think you probably end up with, like, maybe if you're lucky, 2/3 of the projects are great projects, and then you've got some filler ones. So but it's been a great year.
Is it not fun, kind of just being given, kind of like, well, we need you to be doing this, and it's about, it's about Attack of the Killer Fruit Bowl, and we need you to draw angry bananas.
Yeah, it's cool. If you do that for a month, and then you go and do World War II for people. It's totally crazy. So it's really good fun. I love the switching. It's one of the things I really like about it. Like, on average, a project length is like 2 months for a decent sized project, but then you're on something completely different. Like, the range of themes, subjects, styles, stuff you get dropped on you is just, okay, sure, let's do it. Let's see what we can make out of that. And on we go. So that is one of the best things about it. Like, every day is different. Working in a computer games company like Creative Assembly, you're knocking out sequel after sequel after sequel. Exactly. And you're working on them for like 2 to 4 years. It's like soul destroying in a way. So doing something for 2 months and then making something beautiful is fantastic.
Another Centurion. Oh, here we go. Another Centurion.
Yeah. Or it's like,
another Centurion. Somebody taps you on the shoulder and says, you realise this one's slightly brown plumes and you should all have red plumes?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like, I know. I know. If I don't do something different, I'm just going to melt under the desk.
My soul's climbing out of my eyeballs here. You know the war game.
I've
war
seen
game
it
mentality. It's really painful. It's like the insignia on his left shoulder is ever so slightly wrong. If you could just change it, no one's ever going to see it. It's only 10 pixels wide.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it hurts me when I sleep. Okay then, just for you.
Dear. And the other side of it is, where did you get the faces for the Centurions? Look around you, Gavin.
Exactly.
Look around the office.
The whole office is always in there.
You can see us all kind of crying. I mean, do you, in terms of kind of like work side, because I know there's people that, and you see them all, you do see a lot, it's like, I'd love to be in the creative side of the industry. I'd love to do X, Y, and Z. You're kind of, obviously, you got to work to deadlines and you're working with your clients. Is it a case that you jump out of bed at 10:30 on a day and you get your coffee and then read the paper for half an hour and then you work for 3 hours and then you say, I'm going to go to the park, and then that's what you do? Or are you a case of it's just like, you have to maintain a strict work ethic and you have to get up and, occasionally get dressed?
So this is the story of my last, 2 years. In October, I took my first holiday for 2 years, for 1 week. And I basically slept for most of that holiday. Because I've been working pretty much 60 to 80 hour weeks non-stop for the last 2 years. Literally with like no weekends, nothing. I even worked Christmas Day this year. So it's it's what you choose to make of it to a degree. But if you want to work your way up the chain and get to the top of it, then you got to work really hard, and the deadlines are crazy, and the money's not enough. So you have to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs at once, and realistically, it's a crazy life that way. Sometimes, in the ideal, sometimes you've got one project on, and it does give you the space to take the sketchbook down to the bar and just do some drawing over a beer.
Yeah.
Or choose to take Wednesday off. But then if I take Wednesday off, I work the weekend. So, I always work 6 days a week. No question. So I need to get that down and trying to get my life to normalise a bit, because this last 2 years has just been crazy.
No, I've seen that. I've seen that in. I've seen other people in the industry and other facets in the industry, and you hear the amount of work that they're doing just to kind of get themselves to where they want to be. And they are doing 60, 80 kind of hour weeks.
Everyone's working these hours. It's crazy. And everyone's working it for like half the amount of money they're getting in another industry. Like, if I was doing computer games, I'd be earning at least double what I earn in board games. But I enjoy board games more, so I stick at it. I think everyone has that. If you don't have the love, then board games isn't for you, and you've got to have the love in spades, because it asks a hell of a lot from you, I think. And you've got to love the cardboard.
Do you think that's an issue with the industry, that we're so at the beginning that it's really difficult to say, if look at it, if I was doing stuff in a professional capacity and I was working on a day rate, my day rate probably mean I wouldn't have to work that many days in a month to be okay. But in the board game thing, as you say, you'd probably have to work kind of so many hours based on kind of other kind of things.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think there's probably a lot of people in the industry that would be better off working in McDonald's, to be honest.
Is that because a lot of the people that you end up working with at the beginning is they've not got the funds to actually pay? I mean, there's always that thing about people looking for artists or people looking for people in creative media, and the thing is, you get lots of exposure from
you don't do
from
those
working
jobs.
from.
Too many people do those jobs, but you should just say that's just a say no situation. I did one of those jobs at the beginning of my board games career. Yeah, it's the worst job I've ever done in my life. Like, literally the worst work experience I've ever had. The work just escalates. The person who's asking for that kind of thing has no idea. You start to learn the warning signs, and you're like, okay, they're asking for this for nothing. That's obviously already irrational. And then the project just kind of went along that path where it got out of control. They wanted more and more changes. The demands were more and more unreasonable. But after a certain point, you're in neck deep and you've got to finish the project. Otherwise, it was a total waste of time. So then you're working crazy, crazy hours for a pittance. Yeah. And you really need to avoid that. I think everyone has one or two of those jobs and learns the hard way, the lesson there. But it's a rough lesson, I guess, and learn it from me rather than actually do it, because it's a crappy way to spend a month or two. It's not worth it. So, and we've all done it, so sadly. The other reality in the industry is that the majority of publishers are amateur. The majority of publishers, even if they're not amateur, are minor players and don't have budgets. Yeah, their budgets are very, very minor. Even these Kickstarters you see that are hitting, 250, 500,000, their budgets really aren't amazing. You think they must be doing really well, but that budget is being stretched so thin, and across so many people, trying to get this one project out that's only going to a very small audience. Yeah, I think the reality is that the business at the moment isn't really viable. Like, if it wasn't for the love that people put into it and the passion, then it's not really a sustainable business. Like, if a business specialist came in and analysed most of these businesses, they would tell you to shut your doors tomorrow, because it just doesn't make sense. It makes sense because we all love it. That's why it makes sense. Otherwise, it's crazy time. No, but I love the job. No. I'm not backing away from it. I do this, day and night, and have done, like I said, for the last 2 years. even though I'm knackered now. I don't regret it, and I'm looking forward to the next job. So yeah. So sometimes you've got to work out what the values and things are. I mean, you can get paid really well, like I said, in computer games, but if it doesn't make you happy, it's also not worth doing. So, you've got to work out what makes you happy and what's good for you. And, for me, the creativity that I get space for in board games makes me really happy. So.
And I suppose when you get that copy of Western Legends through your door,
getting stuff in print that you've worked
is
on
that
is just
really? Is that like a really
feeling.
cool? Is that really cool? You're kind of sitting there and going, "Actually, I did this. This was me. This wasn't just. I didn't just have ideas. This is me." And I remember sitting down and spending 5 hours drawing the son of a bitch's nose.
Exactly. It's all a memory, and then there it is, and it's all in print, and you're like, wow, it actually looks really good. You're like, this was a nightmare, or that was fantastic. I'm so glad that came out as well as I hoped it would come out. Like, print's always scary as well. Like I've done all sorts of illustration design jobs or advertising and everything. Whenever you get anything back in print, it's like nerve-wracking just before you receive it. You're like, oh shit, did the colours come out right? Did I crop it incorrectly? What typos were left in the text? There's so many things that can go wrong. So when the product comes in and it's beautiful and it looks great, and you're like, it's so rewarding.
You've
so
never
much
had
more
that
rewarding than digital. Like computer games that's one of the things about them. It's like you make this thing and it's incredible and it's beautiful, but it's really the work of like 200 people. And
you can't kind of pick out and go, that's my...
No, the first full game that I finished in computer games, it finally came out and it was published, and it was like, it felt like it should be this exciting moment, and then we put it in the machine and started playing it, and then someone goes, so which bit did you do? And you're like, well, you see that barrel over there?
Wow.
I did the lighting on that barrel. It's like, like minor stuff, and it's crazy. So it's much more satisfying to say, like, everything in this box is my work, or like, everything visual here is mine. And like with Ruthless, that's doubled or quadrupled because doing the design as well. So
you haven't had that moment where you've had, like, remember the old woman who ruined that fresco painting and went back and fixed it?
Yes, actually, I have had that moment. I have had that moment. It was the most devastating thing that's happened in the last 3 years.
What was that?
Well, I did this game. I'm not going to say what it was. I'm going to be really professional and not say what it was, even though
you can whisper it to me.
I'll whisper it.
I won't tell you.
No. Anyway, I drew these nice isometric tiles, really nice illustrations. Took me ages, way more work than I should have done for the job, and I was so exhausted. And the client needed to get it to print, and I was like, I just need to sleep for 2 days, and then I'll put the cards in, and then you can send it to print. And while I was taking 2 days off, I don't know who they got to do it, like someone's grandson or something, to draw these cards. Looked like they'd been done in Microsoft Paint. And then someone who didn't understand Photoshop had used the transform thing to make them all wonky, and they actually printed that. And that was heartbreaking. So...
Did you
Most people probably didn't notice, but I was just outraged. I was so angry. Can't even imagine.
Well, you see then, were you incandescent with rage?
Yeah, it's times like that when you are glad that the Atlantic is as big as it is.
Really, wow.
Just going to swim over there and murder you all.
We'll just give it time, Roland. You'll come out and tell us who it is.
Yeah.
Just go over there. You know what I mean? I'm here. I'm bringing my sharpened pencils with me. This tablet doesn't even work, but it works really good. It's nice and heavy.
Exactly.
It can hit like
really
nobody's
well.
business.
Yeah. So stuff like that does happen, sadly. But again, it's a rough lesson, and then you learn to be more cautious and take more control over files, and like any job, I guess. But here, everything is kind of weird because, in a way, I think a lot of publishers think of the art as just part of the game, and they don't realise it's the artist's reputation on the line. They think they ask you to do a job, and you're just going to knock out some work and get paid. But every single thing I ever touch is personal. Like, it's going on my website, and if it isn't, it was a waste of time me doing it.
Yeah.
Everything I do is who I am. and represents my values and the quality of my work. So if something bad goes out there, or if someone tampers with my layout and then ruins it, then that's going to kick back badly on me. And,
I can just imagine somebody saying to you, well, Roland, I'll tell you what it is, right? I really wanted you for the job. The designer really wanted you for the job. But the MD seen those cars that you did on that last job.
Yeah.
And he says, it's a racing game, Roland. You know, did somebody not give you a ruler or something? Kind of thing.
Painful.
So,
let's not talk about it. It hurts.
Okay, so we'll move on. I'm sorry.
Still.
I'll stop. Just like have some lemon juice. So you have to be a bit more. Let's talk about Ruthless. I was going to try and lead it in to something and say, but you have to be ruthless now, Roland. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, that sounds rubbish. So we're not going to do that.
Already been reasonably ruthless.
You've taken the leap.
Yeah.
Into your own. You've kind of like you've been dibbly dabbling, and now you're jumping over from being Mr. Artist to saying, I'm going to start doing a bit of designing. So how did that come into fray? That's not even a phrase. Shut
Just
up.
Go with it. Maybe you'll start something.
I know. That's so fetch.
Yeah. You'll be able to tell who's been listening to the podcast when you go to Tabletop Scotland next year. I know. It's one of mine.
It's one of mine.
Anyway, I was bored, basically. I was bored. So I started dabbling around with a bit of design in my free time. I had free time two and a half years ago. I had a couple of months of free time, and I was playing around with a bunch of deck builders and thought they could be improved. So I had a poke around at that, and it just grew and got out of control. So, took over my life a little bit. So in the best possible way.
That's an incredible
right?
best way to say it. I kind of tried to stop it, but it just like spread all over my body. And the next thing I'm in hospital, I'm giving birth to a board game, card game.
I'm one of those people that's sort of all in or nothing, really. So once I started it and I saw that it had the seed of being actually decent, then that was it. I was just all in. And, balls deep in it, really. So, but then obviously all the jobs came in, so then you're juggling, designing, illustrating your own game, and illustrating 2 other games at the same time for the next couple of years. So, but it's been a really good adventure, and game design is, in a way, it's got a lot of similarities it's how I think about illustration and a lot of things in life. I really like puzzles, and illustration I see as a puzzle half the time. I'm trying to work out what the client wants and how to make the best use of my skills to make the best product I can make. But and design is kind of similar, you know. It's like playing a game in a way, designing. You're trying to solve puzzles, you're trying to optimize and get the best out of the system that you've created, and refine and refine and refine. You know, it's a lot of iteration, and iteration is the same as what I'm doing in illustration as well. So for me, there was a lot of crossover, and I really enjoyed the creativeness of the process. So yeah, it was cool.
But you you didn't go the Kickstarter route with Ruthless, though. I mean, there was obviously, I take it there was a chance and the potential opportunity. Was it just like a time thing?
No, I could have always done it. Like, I was aware I could have done it because I'd done everything. There were 2 things that made me really clear that I didn't want it. One was that Kickstarter's insane. Like a crazy ass amount of work. Yeah. And then the other one was that I kind of looked at a lot of those projects and thought, well, anyone can self-publish their own game. Like, what does it mean to self-publish your own game? It's like, hey, I think I've got this thing that's good, and now I'm going to share it with you. Whereas having someone else throw their money at something, validate something that you've invested your time in, for me, felt like a more important thing. It's like to take it to a publisher and them see the potential in it and then put their name behind it. For me, that meant more than publishing my own game.
Right, okay.
It's easy in a way to publish your own game. I don't mean to put anyone down who's doing that, because I think it's incredible the things that people do. And like I said, I mean, Kickstarter's just an absurd amount of work. So partly I just couldn't take on the extra work. But on the other hand, I really wanted a publisher. And I'm really glad I went that route, because there's some really great perks to picking up a publisher and working with professionals. So, and I guess because I work with those professionals all the time, I'm really aware of what you can get out of working with a team who knows what they're doing. And I've seen a lot of Kickstarters where, the product's like 80% there. But then it's just lacking the polish. It's lacking the detail. It needed a bit of development. The rulebook should have been written by a professional. Yeah. And it's sad to see those projects that have got so much potential just lose their shine at the last moment. So
what was your involvement with? It was when you got it was Alicat Games you worked with, yeah.
Yeah, so, they weren't my first publisher though, so it's kind of a complicated process.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I initially went to Essen 8 months after having started designing the game, and pitched it to 12 publishers, and 9 of them took prototypes, and then 2 of them were really interested. In the end, I ended up giving it to a Polish publisher who was very keen on taking over worldwide rights and trying to spread the license. And I got on well with those guys. So that process, though, went a little bit south. They had some internal problems, and things weren't making any progress. So the game should have been released in 2017, and then it was delayed. And then in March of this year, I could see that it was going to get delayed again. And I really wanted it out for Essen this year, partly just because I wanted some closure. Wanted to get back on with my life.
Exactly.
And fortunately, I put a clause in the contract that said if they didn't have it published in 3 languages by Essen 2018, then the contract was void. So that was smart in hindsight. And when I realised they weren't going to do that, I said, okay, if you give me back the English and German languages, then I'll let you keep the rest. And they kind of went for that. So then I'd already spoken to Cesar from Alicat, and I had a German publisher who I knew was interested in the game as well. So I was able to get them online, and then we just worked like crazy for 2.5 months to get it ready and towards publication, because the game was done. Like, it was pretty tight. We tidied up a few things, but and got some good input from Alicat's really great sort of affiliate designers. So that was cool. They're one of the perks of the publishers. But Alicat was never the intended publisher. But I'm really, really glad I ended up working with them, because they're a fantastic team.
Well, they've had a
Board Game Circus as well.
Yeah, they've had a stunning couple of years with like Dice Hospital. There's the Pocket range. Pocket Sub has actually just
Pocket Farmer. Yeah, just come out. Yeah, Caesar's batting out the park, really. He's working super hard. He's got the right ethic for it. He's got the right ambition, and he's got a really great team behind him. He's got all those great Cambridge game designers kind of on his within reach of him, so he can test with them. And I think David Xerxes did some of the stress testing. He did the Anachrony and Petrichor and stuff like that. He did some of the stress testing on Ruthless to make sure that it was a stable game and there weren't any breaks in it. And then Brett J. Gilbert, who's done like Elysium and those things, wrote the rulebook, and that's all part of his team, and that's a fantastic level of quality to be bringing to all those products that he's making.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that was a fantastic thing about going with a publisher as well. Yeah.
For people who haven't heard of Ruthless, do you want to give the quick kind of 72-minute elevator pitch?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I'll run at it. Ruthless is a pirate-themed deck-building game, but it plays very, very differently to other deck-building games. It is played in rounds, and at the end of every round, players are competing to put sort of a crew together, and the best crew will win the round. But crews are made out of poker-style sets. So if you have a flush or a straight flush of pirates, it's going to beat a straight or a pair or something. So as you build your deck, because deck building game, then you're adding more and more pirates that might synchronize better together for these crews, but you're also going after really good powers. And also, turn structure is not the normal, like, draw 5 cards, play 5 cards. You draw 5 cards, and then you just play in turn. So you have to choose a single action from those 5 cards. And the round lasts until you play those 5 cards. And it's actually the thing that really makes the game different, because it makes it much more strategic and interactive. There's a great deal of the game is in the timing of what cards you play when, what you reveal to other players that you're looking for, what you hide. And so that's kind of a crappy overview of Ruthless. I'm not sure it gives a very clear view because it's quite different.
I didn't want to say anything, to be honest, Roland. However, what I think it was Rory J. Summers, friend of the show and all round nice guy, who he did a written review of Ruthless, and he's a lovely guy. And what he said, and we'll just let's see what he said. He says, "Stop emailing me, Richard. I don't want to speak to you again." No, that's it. Wrong. Right. Okay.
Wrong email.
He says, "The familiarity makes the game very easy to teach. The artwork makes it look great on the table, and the mix of mechanics will convince you that the next game your deck will be a little bit better." So there you go. So he obviously, he's quite ambivalent about it, to be honest. But
he's been a great supporter of the game. So that's been really nice. And there's been quite a few, actually. So, but he was like, that piece he wrote was really, really nicely written as well. It's just a good read. And
it is.
But I think it is that thing, like the first time you play it, it's almost harder if you're familiar with deck builders, because like it is familiar, but then it does every little thing that it does slightly differently, and it produces slightly different results. And because it plays in rounds rather than just like until the game's finished, like just keep going, like in Dominion, then it's really short, and every decision's like super important. So the first play can be a bit rough on people who think that they know deck builders, because they're like, oh, I know Dominion, I'll just blah 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 blah, and it's like, wait, there wasn't enough time for my big money strategy to work, and now I've got a pair at the end of the game, kind of thing. So
oh no, you fell.
But it really rewards extra play, and hopefully it makes people think, oh, next time I'm going to try this or try that. And there's a lot of different ways to go in it, I think. So.
No, I mean, I've definitely heard some really good kind of things, and we'll make sure we actually put the link to Rory's review in the show notes, so that everybody can read about it, because the artwork is fantastic, and we don't just want to take your word for it as well, Roland, that it's really good, because that's good.
Cheers.
It's like me. What's next for you then? I mean, what's kind of on the horizon? I mean, I take it a little bit of sleep would be nice, but
this whole week's just been sleep, really, because SM was killer, and always is, but this year was like double killer. So and then next week I'll take it easy. I've got 2 jobs on at the moment. One's a second edition of a game that I've already worked on, and one's a new game.
All right, cool.
I've got a couple of pitches been sent in to me for new projects, and an expansion. So I'm looking at those. But actually, I'm hoping to take it a little bit easier, November, December, and use that downtime to start work on my next game as well. So,
do people pitch to you then? Do you get people pitching you and like saying, look, I've seen this work. I love the work that you did in Western Legends.
No, it's a bit more like that. Yeah, it's a bit more like, we're thinking of doing, it depends. Like sometimes the publisher's going to come with a really strict idea of what they're looking for, and that's fine as well. That can be fun. And then sometimes you get publishers that have got a really tight idea on what the game is, but maybe they're not really tied to what the world building might be, or they're looking for someone who's good at art direction and has got the energy to inspire them as well. So that's really fun when you get those projects. Like someone just comes in and says, "Hey, we've got this game. It plays like this. It's got this. I was thinking of this kind of idea, but you're free to run with it. What would you do with it?
Wow.
Are you interested in working with that?" And yeah, I think over the last year I've started to build a reputation where I can start to get those projects where people are willing to throw something at me and see what I can make of it.
That's cool. That's cool.
So it's a nice place to be at.
If people that have listened along tonight and said, "That Roland, he's fantastic. Shame you had to speak to Richard." If they want to keep an eye on your up and coming projects and generally everything that you're going to get up to over the next kind of couple of years, where do you exist on the interweb nets?
Yeah. Well, my website is rolandsrevenge.com. And
why?
Why? That's a good question. Because it's a good name. And
all right, okay, that's fair.
It was the name of I think it was the name of a computer game on like the Spectrum.
I was going to say, was it not?
Spectrum,
yeah, that's what I thought.
Back in the 80s.
Was it not Monty's Revenge or something? There was something
like
Roland's
that.
Revenge, something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway, I kind of had this. I'd either made it Roland's Revenge in my head or whatever, and I used to have my company used to be called Roland the Illustrator, and that was the handle I used for advertising work. And when I specialised in computer games, I wanted something different. So I just ended up with this. It's memorable. People don't forget. People are always wondering why I'm so vengeful. So. But it doesn't seem to stop them wanting to work with me. So that's a good thing, because I was a bit worried about scaring people off.
Everybody's wondering what you're getting revenge for.
Exactly. It's a common question when a client calls, like, should I be worried? I don't want to end up on your list.
Exactly.
But I'm also fairly prolific on Instagram, which is my favourite social media space, really. I find it the easiest for me to use, and actually over there I still am Roland the Illustrator, so you can find me there. And I am on Twitter as well, and Ruthless is on Facebook, and obviously on Board Game Geek. So
excellent.
That's me.
Well, we'll make sure we take all of these links and we'll put them in the show notes so that we have notes to show. Okay.
Yes. Excellent.
Right, I've got a question for you. And it's potentially in my head just now. It's forming, and in my head just now it sounds amazing, but it's going to come out my mouth and it's probably going to sound rubbish. Okay,
it's going to be terrible.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, you ready? Okay.
I should have prepared for this.
That's fine. Doc Brown.
Yeah.
Okay. Appears in his DeLorean.
Yeah.
Right, and he jumps out and he goes, "Roland, you've got to help me!" And he's like going, "That's not Doc Brown's voice." He goes, "Shut up! I can't do Christopher Lloyd very well." And he says, "What is it?" He says, "Basically, there's been a fire at the all-time board game consortium in space
Keep going.
Right? And what's happened? It's devastated some of the board games that are in our collection. Now I could take you away for a couple of months and give you all the materials that we need. But we need you to help us redesign." This isn't Doc Brown and Tom, may as well give up. "Great Scott, Marty! We gotta sorry. We need you to help us redesign 3 board games. What 3 board games that exist, if you had the chance to do the art for them, what games would they be, Roland?"
Yeah, okay, this is something I should have thought about more. There's obviously a few obvious ones. There's a few that have been on my hit list. The first one that was on my hit list was Battle Line. I've already done that one. So
Okay.
So next up, I think Castles of Burgundy's got to be like number 1 on most artists' lists to redo. I think Ian O'Toole said it was high up on his list as well.
Yeah,
it's a great game, but damn, is it ugly! It's truly hideous.
All right, don't say how you feel.
No, okay. Don't pull my punches.
Exactly. I mean, they don't listen anyway. It doesn't matter.
Christ, I don't know. There's so many. Like anything out of Germany, really, in the last. Yeah. This
so bad.
No,
Right.
I mean they're getting better, but it's pretty bad, isn't it? Scary stuff.
Any
coming out
game?
of the
What would you like
Eurospace.
What would you like to get your Roland revenge on? Any game at all? Your third game. If you said, right, okay, you
next
can do it
game.
again. You can still have all the same components, but you could do the art. What would you like to do?
I'd love to redo the box cover for Codenames because that's just a crime. That thing is just outrageously horrible.
Well, there you go.
So you can add that. I mean, it's only a cover. The whole game is grotesque, but the cover's that sort of... It's a miracle it sold as many copies as it has. That just proves the gameplay is really tight.
I saw it in Tesco the other day. I couldn't believe it. I walked past it. I was like, oh, it's in Tesco now.
Wow.
Codenames is in Tesco. So there you go.
There we go.
Anyway, so that's it. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, then you can find us in the local. We can find us at all in the places, in all of the faces. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but you can find us on Twitter, which is We're Not Wizards, and Facebook, which is We're Not Wizards, and Instagram, which is We're Not Wizards, and Tumblr, which is We're Not Wizards. We've got a website, which is we'renotwizards.com. We've got a blog, which is we'renotwizards.blogspot.com. If you really like us, give us some money. If you really like us, you can support us on Patreon. We do have people that support us on Patreon. They're all lovely and fantastic and wonderful, and we really, really appreciate it because it helps buy us an occasional glass of juice and stuff like that, and keeps the wolf from the door. And it's always really lovely and really nice. And thank you. If you want to rate us or review, you can do it on Stitcher. We got a 5-star review on Stitcher. Somebody dropped a 5-star review on Stitcher. I don't even do a Stitcher joke. I don't know how that happened. It's ridiculous. You know, what's going on with these people? But you can get us on like all the different podcast catchers, you know, Stitcher and Spreaker and Acast and Castbox and Player FM and all these other wonderful places. But remember, if you do get us on Apple Podcasts and you like us a lot, drop us a subscription. If you like us even more, consider giving us a rating or a review. If you do give us a rating or a review, don't give us 10 stars because it makes us big-headed. But don't give us 1 star because it makes us cry. Give us 5 stars because it's in the middle and it's average. And we're just a little bit average. But the person who's not been average tonight is the rather wonderful, the rather fantastic, the multi-talented, like, looking, he's got a fantastic beard I can see in his picture here. He does art as well, he designs games, he seems to be living the dream. I don't know if, he is rather wonderful, he is rather fantastic, it's Mr. Roland MacDonald. Thank you very much for coming on, sir.
Thank you.
Oh my word, we lost it at the end.
Marvellous wonky outro you managed to put together.
It just is one of these things. There's only 3 more things to do, Roland. Okay?
Yeah.
The first thing, and it's still running because it's a lot of fun. We're running a competition, and that competition is all about swords. And what you can do is, if you want to win a copy of Sword Crafters by Adam's Apple Games, whether you be in the UK's or the USA's, all you need to do is to send us a picture of a sword that you've crafted, and you'll get a copy of Sword Crafters, which is a game about crafting swords that you sit and you craft a sword. And I had a shot of it the other night, and it's really funny because I made a sword and it looks absolutely fantastic. So if you want to win that, then either go on Twitter and hit us with a hashtag I'm a sword crafter, not a wizard, or send us a little picture in the DMs if you're shy. And you can win a copy of Sword Crafters. So there you go. The other thing is, you got to remember that we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Roland?
We're definitely not wizards.
Definitely not wizards. We're just, I don't know where we are at the moment. It's just, I don't know, someplace on a train. And the last thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Roland. Say goodbye, Roland.
Goodbye.
So nice. It's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe. Roll6s.com. And art's good and art's important. And there are people that do good art and do important art. And then there's people that go out and do some ruthless art. And so, check out what Roland does, because this is the beginning of potentially his ongoing journey, where he's going to be moving from doing more art to start doing more games and continually building up his name. Grab a copy of Ruthless. There'll be links in the show notes. There'll be Rory's lovely review, so you don't have to take my word for it that it's good fun. You can take somebody else's for a change. But until the next time, goodbye.